Hello everyone, welcome back. So in today's session, we will get started with the virtualization once again, but this time we will focus on using the provisioning tool, which is Vagrant. So just to give you an insight, give me a moment. Just give me one moment, please. Right. Okay, so quick summary of what we have done yesterday. In yesterday's session, we focused about the virtualization, where we started to use our infrastructure, which is the laptop in our case. Then we have the host operating system, which was running on which was the operating system of our laptop, and the chance of provisioning a virtual machine was achieved with the help of the hypervisor. The hypervisor gives us ability to have virtual hardware units provisioned, and these virtual hardware units were then running with the help of the operating system of my own choice along with the kind of applications that I want to run. So this was the setup that we have done yesterday. So have you people successfully been setting up the Oracle VirtualBox in your system? To all of you people, have you set up your Oracle VirtualBox? Okay, have you people provisioned Ubuntu machine to get started with? Yes, was it a success? Right, thank you. Right. So we will continue the same setup, but the question still to be answered is why we need a tool like provisioning tool. Now, for that to understand, we need to understand once again what we have done yesterday with regards to the slicing. Let me give you a scenario. The scenario goes like this. There's an online hotel examination that let's say I'm a company. I have a requirement to host an online examination where I'm expecting the number of participants are around about 50 participants, and each participant should be given one VM. So people, how many VMs are you expected to create for those number of participants? If I have a requirement where I'm hosting an online exam, 50, correct? Another question is 50 VMs if I have to create. So if you follow the simple steps that I've mentioned yesterday, creating an average 5 minutes, if you just put an average for 5 minutes for provisioning a VM, if you just multiply with the number of VMs that you want, 50 number of VMs. So how many total number of minutes? Approximately 250 minutes. See, the workflow is expected to go like this. As soon as a user registers, I would need a VM for the user. He should be able to take his exam. Once he finishes his exam, right, I want that machine to be deregistered and it's done. So the point I want to bring is, if that was one VM, no problem for me, I would have provisioned it. But at a single shot, I would need 50 VMs. Then that is like I want at a very rapid, or I want very much that 50 VMs to be created. I cannot consume 250 minutes for provisioning VMs. It's a workflow like a user who is sitting for the exam, registers for the exam, As soon as the registration takes place, I want a VM to be allocated for him. Once this VM is allocated, he will give his exam. He will use that exam. After this exam, he should be able to end his exam. And after the end of the exam, what is the use of the VM? We need to destroy the VM. People, are you understanding the workflow? If you people have understood, can I expect a quick confirmation from all of you there regarding this workflow? So this is just to start. I'll create a VM. He will end his exam, and after that, I would need to destroy that VM. A simple workflow. Assume that if there was only one participant, how many VMs do I need? One VM. If there are 10 participants, how many VMs I need? 10 VMs. If there are 50 participants, how many VMs I need? Clear to all of you people? Correct? Now, if you look at the time for manual provisioning, manually if I provision them, an average of 5 minutes if I consider for provisioning a VM, and that too, one after the other. I cannot provision one at a go. I can only provision one at a go. I cannot provision 10 VMs at one go. I can only start create VMs, start do that, and average of 5 minutes if it is required. If I have to provision 50 VMs, 250 minutes. I think it is more than one day. So users cannot wait such long time. Like, okay, here comes your chance. After that, another person, another person. Things are not. Things have to be in a system, in an automated flow. That as soon as the system starts, a VM should be allocated for him, give his exam, and done. On the VM, he's actually giving his exam. Inside the VM, his examination is running. So this is how a real life scenario, if it's given to you, how you would have handled it. Manual method wouldn't have been possible. So the best thing that I would have looked is a provisioning tool. Vagrant is one such provisioning tool, very popular across the DevOps community. How does it work? And what exactly this Vagrant is all about is something that we will learn for today. People, if you're clear with the scenario, can I expect quick confirmation from everyone so that I can proceed further? I gave you a scenario. The scenario is something like I want a VM and I'm trying to bring a solution for it. The solution was provisioning management tool. So we'll continue the learning of provisioning management tool today. So let's continue the learning with regards to the Vagrant or virtualization with regards to Vagrant. Vagrant is basically an open source product from a parent company called HashiCorp. There's a parent company called HashiCorp. This is the company, you can see the name of the company here, HashiCorp. This company is very popular, very, very popular, especially for the various number of tools they offer. Terraform is one such tool they offer. Packer imaging tool they offer. Nomad. So they have plenty of products designed for DevOps stack. Vagrant is one such product they offer. So the idea of Vagrant can be understood something like this. I want to plan the provisioning of a VM or building of a VM in a way, in a single workflow. That means I write a workflow. In that workflow, I want a VM to be created and I want the VM to be destroyed. So a tool which is built and which is used for building and managing your VM environment. How? Because it understands what you want to create. It understands what you want to manage. So what benefits shall I get if I start using this tool? Plenty. Because if you are a developer, you will focus on writing the code. Vagrant can handle your requirement of provisioning a VM for you, building a VM for you. And also, it helps you to focus on automation because you are not going to create those VMs. It is the Vagrant going to create for you on your behalf. Then how does it work? To understand this Vagrant a little more, you need to understand how does Vagrant work. So Vagrant works in the form of boxes. In this current example, I'm showing you the idea of Vagrant working with the help of box called Ubuntu. So Vagrant understands the concept of boxes, which I'm going to show you what is this boxes in some time from now. Then it is your hypervisor is a must. If you don't have hypervisor, how do you expect virtual machines to get created? People, please do understand. If you don't have if you don't have hypervisor running in your system, Vagrant is no more like Vagrant is of no great use to you. So it is now, people. I hope by this overview, I believe that you are now able to understand how Vagrant works. So Vagrant actually picks up the boxes, knock the door of hypervisor, asking hypervisor, could you go ahead and create me virtual machines? So virtual machine says, I will definitely provision a virtual machine based upon the configurations that Vagrant comes up here. So what does Vagrant will do? Vagrant would say, I would say to Vagrant that I need a VM. So Vagrant understands my requirement, picks up the boxes, the kind of boxes I need. For example, in this case, I need an Ubuntu box. Then it will go ahead and take the assistance of Oracle VirtualBox, which is the hypervisor in case, and launch actual VMs. Can I expect a quick confirmation, people? Now, regarding the connection of one tool with regards to the other and how they exactly work. If you're not understanding, do not worry. When I show you the real way of implementation, things will be much clearer to all of you. But one thing is for sure, you need a hypervisor. If you don't have an hypervisor, things don't work. Sure. So let's assume that you don't have a hypervisor. There is no hypervisor. So how do you achieve virtual environment? Your hypervisor is required to achieve from physical to virtual environment. That's for sure. But the process of provisioning, managing, building is done by the tool Vagrant. Vagrant believes or focuses on the concept of boxes. Every VM that you want to provision is governed by the idea of box. Ubuntu boxes, CentOS boxes, uh, Red Hat boxes, everything is now coming in the form of boxes. So what does Vagrant will do? Take your request. Let's say I want Vagrant to create me. So Vagrant takes my request with the help of Ubuntu as a box and hypervisor as its uh, solution, and then starts to provision your actual VMs. Clear, people? So hypervisor is what? Hypervisor is a system that makes your physical environment into virtual, like your laptop. Yesterday, I have made the Windows supporting a Linux Ubuntu machine. In the same way, we need hypervisor, but provisioning, deprovisioning, managing, our boss Vagrant can do that for us. So a little more insight regarding the workflow. I hope this can give you much clear picture of how exactly Vagrant will work. So assume that this is me. I have written a code, or I will write the virtual machine that I want to create in the form of a file called Vagrant file. Step number one. So I'm going to ask Vagrant, I need you to create me a virtual machine. So Vagrant says, okay, Nachala, I'll create a Vagrant for you. machine for you, but you need to tell me how to provision this, so that you have to give me the form of a code. IAC, infrastructure as code. This is what we call it as people, IAC. What do you mean by IAC? Infrastructure is now written as a code. You might have seen Java writing code for Java for an application. Let's say if you want to print the sum of first 100 cities, you write a code for it, it will just print. Likewise, even a server is now becoming code, a Java code. So that's why people, many organizations have started to show an interest towards this skill set, because there are plenty of advantages which I'll explain you in a short while from now. But let's understand the workflow, then I'll come back to the benefits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell to Vagrant, this is a file you need to use and provision me an instance. So Vagrant says, okay, then start to provision me with the help of Oracle VirtualBox, and then it does provision a VM. Now, once the VM is provisioned, it's time for me to do a connection. If you assume this machine to be a Linux, we need to do an SSH into this machine. That is, like, we have to do an SSH into that machine. People, I hope now the workflow is much clear of how does this Vagrant will work. Clear? Fine. Thank you. So now it's time for me to be sure that how Vagrant works. So for that I need to do right. So what is SSH? SSH is a protocol that we follow to connect to a Linux machines. If you're using Windows, you should have used RDP. If you're using Linux machine, if you're provisioning a Linux, SSH. Clear? I'll show you how to use SSH also. It's a method which you follow to connect to a Linux instance. Similarly, tomorrow, if you are starting provisioning a Linux machine in AWS Cloud, we need to do an SSH into that instance. People, can you understand what is SSH? How many of you don't know what is SSH, or how many of you know what is RDP? It's good that if you pose such questions, I'll be very happy to take your questions. Right? If you don't know something, please post it. If I'm aware of it, I'll be happy to discuss. Even if I'm not aware of it, I'll prepare for it and learn about it, and I'll be happy to share. No problem. See, if you just go ahead and type RDP in your system, remote desktop. So remote desktop is what? It's a kind of connecting to a virtual machine. But it's like there is a server. Let's say your server address is 1.2.3.4. There is a server and your server address is 1.2.4 IP address. Now I have given the computer IP address, and then I'm making a connection. But Windows, RDP, Linux, SSH method. People, I hope these two principles are very clear, because AWS supports only two operating systems. One is Linux, for which we will prefer to use SSH. If you are using Windows, attempt using RDP. If you are clear with this simple distinction between RDP and SSH, if you are clear, I am expecting a quick response so that we can proceed further. We'll continue. Right. So now it's time for us to get started with the Vagrant. People, what I've done is I have given you the steps. You guys can follow the steps. Very simple. No extra insights are required for you to do the installation for the Vagrant. But one thing is required for Vagrant to work is your VirtualBox. If you don't have VirtualBox, the problem what will happen is Vagrant will ask you what kind of hypervisor, supporting hypervisor you have. If you have VirtualBox, it will pick from the VirtualBox. If you don't have, then it won't work. So please make sure that you install your VirtualBox. And that was the reason I was asking you. Please have your VirtualBox installed in your system. If you haven't done it, please review the recording in our first session that we have done for yesterday. I made it very, very simple to show how to provision a virtual machine with the help of Oracle VirtualBox. Same, you can download if you just go ahead and select. Let me just select. You go to this Oracle VirtualBox. Okay, I think I'll just take you back to the VirtualBox setup. Download it. So under the downloads, you see there is a VirtualBox for Mac. So download it. The file will be of .dmg extension. Get started with the installation. Rest of the process is self-explanatory. And once you open up, this is a welcoming UI you will get. Yeah, fine. Thank you. So make sure that you pick up your VirtualBox, install it, and the next thing what you need to do is to get started with the Vagrant download. Now it's time for me to go ahead and download Vagrant. So Vagrant. People, the file Vagrant is about 230 MB file. The download will take time and the installation does take time. So let's not invest our time in the installation process because it's time consuming. Let's not invest the time, but it's very, very simple. I'll just let you know what are the steps you need to follow. Go under your Vagrant download and you see there is get started, download 2.0.1.0. So it will pick based upon your operating system. It will automatically reflect for you the kind of plugin that you need to download. So click download. So after the download, you'll get the installer. So once it's an installer, it's just you need to get started with the installer. So step number one is after the installation process, it would ask you to confirm where is that you would like to install this file. So you can say under a new folder called Vagrant, or if you don't want to go under, it will go and get default folder. I'll show you the default folder. It will go ahead and install in the default folder, which is C drive. Inside your C drive, there will be a folder that would be getting created by it called HashiCorp. Under that HashiCorp, it will get created. So desktop, C drive, there you go. So it will create a folder called HashiCorp for you. Inside that folder, it will create a folder called Vagrant for you. Inside the Vagrant, it will create a folder called bin, and that is where it will install Vagrant. People, have you now understood where exactly it will install Vagrant in your system? It will install inside your C /HashiCorp /Vagrant/bin. Before that, how many people can understand path, or how many people don't understand what is path? How many of you don't? How many of you are not aware of what is called path? How many of you are not aware of path? Exactly, it's an environment variable. How many of you are not aware of what is path? Okay. The keyword path can be understood something like this. Let me take you guys. Typing environment variables, it takes you to the environment variables control panel. Open it up, right? And under that, you can see something called environment variables. Click that. You'll see something called a variable called path. Click edit. It will show you the list of all the paths. In the current scenario, you can see there is a folder. There is a path listed C:/HashiCorp/Vagrant/bin. This is the same folder where my Vagrant is installed. Give me a moment, people. So now people, I hope you got a better picture of what is path. Path is kind of, you know, a reference or an address that is letting your system to know or your laptop to know where you can find Vagrant. So where your system can find Vagrant as per the path in this scenario. As per the path, the system can find Vagrant in C colon slash HashiCorp slash Vagrant slash bin. If you look at the same, it is C colon slash HashiCorp slash bin. So Vagrant can be found inside the C colon slash hash. So that is what is called path. Path is a kind of address or a reference given to your system or your laptop that specifies where you can find that particular software. I hope now the concept of path is clear to all of you people. If you are clear, then I need a quick confirmation from all of you there. So tomorrow, if you install another software, if I mention path, so what you will do, you will make sure that path is set. So where you will go ahead and check, you will go ahead and check once again, type in environment variables. The moment it picks up environment variables, you will see there is an environment variables mentioned here. Click that. So you will see the path mentioned available here. That means your system or your file is available inside that. Hope this gives you a clear picture regarding your path, regarding this. So once after the installation is done, so what I'll do is now I'll get started. First thing what I'll do is I'll open up my CMD. So people, this process of Vagrant installation is a time-taking task which takes about 5 to 10 minutes. So please make sure that you allocate 5 to 10 minutes for this process. Okay. Apart from that, it will also ask you to restart your instance, restart your system. That is the reason I had a plan to skip this installation. I've already installed it. So if you make an attempt, I hope you will be successful in doing on your own because it's a self-explanatory setup that you will do. You don't need to set the path. The good thing is it will automatically set the path for you. That's another advantage. When you mention that this is where I want to install, it will install. If you don't set, it will automatically take the path. It will set the path for you. Everything it is an auto installation that will do. But the only thing you have to do is you have to restart your system to make sure your Vagrant is working. Hoping that you people will be successful in attempting it. Let me continue further with the actual part. What I'll do now, I'll go to my desktop. I'm going to create a folder for you and I'll give a name for this folder is Vagrant demo. This is the name of the folder, demo folder. So CD, navigate to Vagrant folder, demo folder. If you see, there are no files in it, empty directory. It's an empty directory. Now, just go ahead and check whether Vagrant is responding. Vagrant, hit enter. That means it should respond you with all the commands that Vagrant does support. Hey Vagrant, come on. It's taking time. There you go. So Vagrant responded me with all the list of commands it supports. Box, cloud, destroy, init, port, PowerShell, RDP, SSH, a lot more. So SSH, what does it do? It would connect to your machine via SSH. RDP connects a machine via RDP. So there's a lot more to explore, people. Let's get started with the actual Vagrant. Vagrant, what I want you to do now is, or even if you're not going to do this, I'm going to show you guys how to get started with the Vagrant. So I would like now Vagrant to provision me a virtual machine, which is Ubuntu. So Vagrant, could you go ahead and provision me an Ubuntu? So just mention Vagrant space Ubuntu. It will help you to reach to the boxes page for the Vagrant. So Vagrant Cloud, select that. So first thing that you will come across is a Vagrant file, which is HashiCorp Vagrant Cloud. Under that, you can see there is an Ubuntu. operating system box supported. There is a Vagrant box. The brand or the version of it is Trusty 64. So there are different names that people give. Don't worry, what is Trusty 64? What is Xenial? You'll come across Bionic, Xenial, Trusty 64. Don't go into all those details at this moment. Just look at your Ubuntu. Next, I would like to run this command for now. Vagrant init Ubuntu Trusty 64. So Vagrant initialize right now for the Ubuntu and Trusty 64. Okay. Enter. So it does take some time, people, because Vagrant is a very, or I can say it's a kind of a system that does take a lot of time. I don't have an exact word to use it, but now based upon the request, Vagrant has initialized me a file, which is called Vagrant file. Here, that means listing. You can see there's a Vagrant file. Now this is not the way that I want you to analyze a file. You should have editors using it. So one editor that I've been using a very long time and I want you guys to get started is Atom. Atom is a very popular and very much popular across the DevOps community. So I would request all of you people start using Atom. Atom is like your notepad, but it has lot of benefits. So how to download it? Very, very simple. Just go ahead and say Atom editor, right? You'll get an Atom editor, which you can start downloading it. You don't need to even installation for it. It's just that, okay, in Mac, you don't need to do an installation. In Windows, you need to do an installation. Double click it. It does take a lot of time. I think it takes about 5 to 10 minutes for the installation process. No extra installations are required you to do. Just start it. Your Atom will get started. So now I'm going to show you how to use this file and how to use this Atom editor. So just say file. There you'll see add a project folder. Select that add project folder. And after that, you'll see under the downloads where you see something called under your desktop. Where is your desktop? Here you go. There is your desktop. And there's a folder that you have created. So let's go ahead and select that. And people, now you'll notice a file, which is a Vagrant file here. There you go. What exactly this Vagrant file is? This Vagrant file is nothing but this is the scripted version for your virtual machine. Once again, what is this Vagrant file? This Vagrant file is a scripted version of your virtual machine. Also notice that people inside this Oracle virtual box, do I have any kind of virtual machine running here? Can you guys confirm me? Do you see any kind of virtual machine running here? Very much no. Now, when I use Vagrant, you'll see how virtual machine gets started with one machine. I'll show you now. So don't go into all these details at this moment. It is way beyond your scope at this moment. I just want you to understand what is written here. It's written here that it is getting started. Vagrant configure to get started with the VM, which is Ubuntu Trusty 64 and N. Okay, let's try. There's no harm in trying. So what is the next step that I have to follow? So the next step that is suggested for me is up this machine. So Vagrant space up. Another command. Vagrant up. Vagrant. Just go ahead and make this up. What is it I'm trying to do here? I'm trying to mention that Vagrant start this machine. Just make that up. Hit enter. So what exactly Vagrant will do now? You'll see in the logs. Vagrant starts a virtual machine for me based upon this Vagrant file, an Ubuntu machine. Can you people spot the hypervisor in this case? Which hypervisor does it get started? Can you spot the hypervisor? Now people, have you understood the power of VirtualBox? And have you understood what exactly Vagrant can do? So Vagrant is actually going to hit VirtualBox, asking it, please provision me a virtual machine. What is the kind of virtual machine? Ubuntu. What is the kind of uh, the brand? Trusty 60. So it does take some time. In the meanwhile, once this machine is getting started, let's learn a little more about the configurations of this machine. If you want to learn the configurations of machine, here the configurations are. Right now, you see the machine did configure by the default value. Now, yesterday we have seen RAM sizing. So I want to have the RAM size. So I can give whatever the size of the RAM that I want. I want to go ahead and give an IP address to it. Give a private IP address to it. Here it is, private IP. I want to see the UI part of it. Okay, you can see provide a VirtualBox, display the VirtualBox UI when booting of the machine. Are you understanding now the purpose of, or have you understood what is this exactly? If you have understood it, people, then I can explain a little more further that this is nothing but scripted version of your VM. Scripted version of your VM. Now, the aim is like this. Whether I provision it or whether you provision it, all of us are going to follow this code, or all of us going to follow this Vagrant file. Assume that I share this file with you and you provision a virtual machine with this Vagrant file. People, do you expect Vagrant in your system to run and provision a virtual machine for you? Let's assume that all of us, for all of you, I'm going to share this file. If you run this, are you sure that it will provision a virtual machine with the help of Vagrant in your system? If your answer is yes, type in yes. If your answer is no, please type in no. Okay. Some of you say no, some of you say yes. Assume that Vagrant is running in your system. Assume just for now, assume that there is a Vagrant running in your system and I gave you this Vagrant file, you started to run that Vagrant. Okay, what I'll do is I'll share this file to you. You make an attempt, check whether you can run a virtual machine or not. Right. If you're able to create it, that's where infrastructure as code will come in. That is, whether it's me or whether it's you. If everyone are able to provision with the Vagrant file, that's how companies are trying to bring a uniformity. Companies want that whether whether Sudhir creates it, whether it is what's his name, uh, someone else created, whoever it creates it, everyone has to follow the same step. So what I'll do, I'll make this as a document. I make this as a document and I put it inside a file and I tell you, all of the employees are requested to reach to this file in the documentation. Using this documentation, provision a VM. So whether it is me, whether it is you, everybody are following the same steps. So that's how we are minimizing everyone's own method of provisioning a VM. And now everyone are following the universal method. The universal method is provisioning a VM. So that's how you are trying to build a VM. Once the VM is ready, people see that the VM is ready now. It's time for me to go ahead and connect to this VM. Vagrant, thank you so much for building me a VM. Do notice that I'm inside my system. Right after this command, you'll notice a different system. Vagrant, please do an SSH into that machine. So right now I'm doing Vagrant into this machine. Also, people, have you noticed something here? Have you noticed a VM? Did I create this VM? Did I manually create this VM? What is the size of this VM? Quite well, MB. Then who did create this VM? The question is, who did create this VM? Exactly. The provisioning tool, Vagrant, has taken the responsibility of provisioning a VM. How did Vagrant create that? Question is, how did Vagrant create this? Exactly. Vagrant is smart enough to understand what you have written in your script. Exactly. Vagrant has created based upon your code. And that is what people, industry is looking forward, that can you people write provisioning of infrastructure in the form of a code? Now, don't worry. When I say code, it is not the code that you write. Don't focus now at the code part. Just understand what I'm trying to bring to you. It's like the infrastructure is now decoded in the form of script, and when you run that script, it provisions a VM. Now, coming back to the first scenario that I mentioned. Now, if I need 50 VMs to be created, or if let's take very simple example, if I need 10 VMs to be created, I script the 10 VMs, hand it over to Vagrant, tell Vagrant, provision me 10 VMs. So, do you expect people 10 VMs to be created if I write a script for it? Vagrant does provision it. Does Vagrant gonna provision 10 VMs if you script you for those 10 VMs? The answer is yes. What does it do? That's where multiple, it's like you guys can, just to help, I'll just mention in this way, multiple VMs using Vagrant. So I want now multiple VMs to be created. So multi-machine configuration can be brought in. Now don't worry, you are not going to write this code, but just for your knowledge purpose. Just for your knowledge purpose. How is this Vagrant file? So we want to write multiple VMs. So here he has written multiple VMs. One VM is a web VM, another VM is a DB VM. So I could have run in a script which can run 10 times to provision me a VM. Or another example. Let's take this example. This page I really like because he has written multiple configurations. See that? This is for one VM. He has given the configurations. Here he has given configuration for two VMs. See that? Two VMs. If you want multiple VMs, you can see multiple VMs to be created. One is Web 1, another one is Web 2, another one is DB. People question is that, have you understood the purpose? The purpose was to create multiple VMs. How does that can be done? It can be done by using Vagrant. How to get it done? Write a script for it. Now, I'll do one more thing. Before that, you guys can confirm. Welcoming page. Welcome to Ubuntu 14.04. So people, have you noticed that now? I'm inside my Vagrant file. People, have you noticed it? I'm away from my system now. This is my system. I'm away from the system. Where is that right now? I'm Vagrant. If you want to check, who am I? Vagrant. What is my present working directory? Make an exit. You're back onto the system. Now, let me do once again. Vagrant, I would like to do once again an SSH into this machine. So Vagrant does an SSH. So now people, what is happening? Vagrant did provision a VM. Fine. Vagrant did provision a VM for me. Let me clear the screen for a moment. Right. So what did I've done? What exactly I've done? I've written a Vagrant file, or a Vagrant file was given to me. Then what did Vagrant do? Vagrant used this file, taken the help or assistance of Oracle VirtualBox, and provisioned a VM for me. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do an SSH into this machine. Now, if you want 2 VMs, script for 2 VMs. If you want 10 VMs, you can script for those 10 VMs. That's what I'm trying to do here. Now, I want to see the VM. If you ask me, I want to make some changes into the script. Let's do the changes into the script. So let me show you how to do the changes. So configuration of the VirtualBox. I would like to see the UI part equal to true. This time, instead of 512, let me give 1024 as the size of the RAM, and I want it to get started. Also, I want to give a private IP address to it. So how to write a private IP address? Let me show you how to write a private IP. So now I would like to go ahead and give a private IP address to this machine. So this is a configuration for the private address. Okay. Now what I'll do is, Vagrant, thank you so much, but this time I want you to once again reload this machine. I'm just want to reload this machine. Why reload? Because I made some changes into that machine. Or if you're not sure about it, just mention Vagrant up. This time it will understand the changes that you are trying to bring from the previous to the current. Now it is expected to load. So previously it was 512. Now it is expected to undergo and become 1024. So now provisioners is up to date. So let me just, I think it is up already. So let me do one thing. Let me reload that machine. I'm trying to reload that machine. So what exactly should happen is it should stop, undergo the changes from 512 to 1024 with a new IP address, because these are the changes that I brought. And you should see a UI. The UI should be visible. Now you can see it is shutting down the VM. VM should shut down. After that, machine should, yeah, you see that power is off, and very soon the VM is expected to get started. Right, there you go. The UI is coming up. So people, I'm not going to do anything to the VM. It is the system is doing the VM. See that the changes are being brought up. I'm expecting the changes to happen from 1024 512 MB to 1024 1020. Let me just check any more changes. I think I even open up the port 8080 also. I'll open up the port 80 for our resolution purpose. See that people? UI has come up for this machine. Subnetting mask is getting done for it. It is picking up the IP address. The machine is getting started. So you can see it is undergoing the changes. There you go. 1024. This is the RAM size, the new RAM size. People, now are you understanding the power of scripting or infrastructure made into a code? Now your infrastructure has become a piece of code. So if I share this code along with my team, even if I'm not part of the project, if my team runs it, they'll be able to get an VM. So companies have now interest that I don't need Mr. Rachalla to be inside the project. We can do on ourselves, but there should be someone to write this code. So that's where the skill set of cloud engineering, the skill set of DevOps engineering, would be understood the way that you write a script for a VM. I'm not expecting you to write the VM script, but I'm expecting you understand how this is happening and why it is required. So tomorrow, if I put a script, let's say if I go ahead and put a script, the script is like this: a script of VM1, there's a script of VM2 for about, let's say, 10 VMs. There's a script for 10 VMs. There's a system. As soon as the system gets started, what I want Vagrant to run this Vagrant file. As soon as this Vagrant file it gets created, now it will create a stack with how many machines, people? One VM, VM1, VM2, till to the point I have 10 VMs. That is what is called advantage of managing. Now, another question: is that right now I'm managing things? Am I managing this machine, people? Am I managing this VM? The answer is no. Who is managing the VM? Vagrant is managing the VM. That is another advantage of using provisioning. Right. So we need to do a reload because changes have come up, right? So we have to allow the changes to be visible. The changes has to undergo. They need to get visible. I think it is trying to destroy, or what is exactly happening. Give me a moment. Let me check back what is happening here. It will go through. It will go through. Right. Let me take your questions. Do we have made changes to existing VM? No, I didn't create a new one. Whatever the existed VM I had, I made it to undergo the changes. It's undergoing the changes. Or what is the kind of issue it is facing? Check that, people. Right. I am not able to do SSH. Why? Because the machine is still not ready. If the machine is ready, I could have done an SSH. Still, I'm waiting for the machine to be ready.
Is it similar to
Yeah. In the meanwhile, people, can you just go ahead and check this command? Oh, you should have Vagrant installed, right? Yeah. Please, with your questions, there was someone.
is it similar to putty server?
No, Putty is a client to do an SSH. Putty is a SSH. SSH is supported here. If you're if SSH is not supported in your system, you can use a client called Putty, which I'll show you when we are in AWS Cloud. Yeah,
Okay.
right. So I think machine is ready. Let me just check whether SSH is enabled. Let me do an SSH into that machine. I think let me check once again. This is a process. If your RAM is faster, it will SSH change red connection reset. Okay. Now let me try to start the machine back in case if it is getting blocked. Give me a moment, people. I'm just once again starting the machine. Right, it is getting started with the changes. This time it should be okay. Let me just connect back to this machine. So if that was a scenario, I would have done, something like this. I would have gone and I would have understood what are the sizes of a virtual machine. Let's say I need two virtual machine. One virtual machine needs 1 GB of RAM. Another machine needs 2 GB of RAM. I would have written similar to this configuration, like the name of the box, the brand of the box, the IP address of the box, the IP address that I want to, the size of the RAM that I want to give. This is for one machine. Another machine, I would have written it accordingly. So multiple VMs I could have written in one single file. Here, Mario, why this SSH is getting aborted? Let me do it once again, people. Why it is getting stopped? In the meanwhile, let me open up this port as well. Port 8080. Port 8080. 1990. I'll tell you the reason why did I use port 1990. Let me double check. Vagrant port 80 1990. I'll come back to you. Just give me 1 minute. Let me confirm VirtualBox space. Give me 1 minute. Vagrant. I would like to just confirm the series of the commands. Okay. Let me check. Vagrant. Can you validate Vagrant file successfully validated? Okay, that means no issues with the Vagrant file, right? No, actually, the advantage of or why we need to do everything in one file is Vagrant only understand one file, which is a Vagrant file. It cannot understand two files. So we have to write everything in one file. So it is like Vagrant file with no extension. There shouldn't be any kind of extension. Clear? So Vagrant, one more time, I would like you to reload this the machine with the changes that I'm bringing. If not, people, let me do it one more time and let you. So the purpose of what is this VM configuration? There is a forward. Create a forward port mapping which allows your machine, whatever the local host, when you open up localhost port 8080, whatever the VM, whatever the virtual machine, the Vagrant virtual machine port 80 is getting resolved to port 99. I don't want to use port 80 because I'm using 8080 for my Jenkins server. So Jenkins server is already using port. So it will say port binding is already associated. So that's the reason I use another random number, port 9090. So you guys can use port 8080 because you haven't installed Jenkins. But once when we install Jenkins, that shouldn't be an issue. So open up any port. So write your own port. So let me check. Let me confirm whether the machine is getting loaded. Right keys. This may take 2 minutes. Okay. If this is not working out, I'm going to show you something how to overcome this. All you need is a virtual machine. So if this is not the way that it is not working, so we can destroy this machine and get started with a newer machine. And I'll look into this issue why this is connection method is not happening. It is kind of aborting. Connection is getting aborted. So let me check. Is that so? I don't think so. Let me double check. Let me double check. You see the machine is running, no issues with the machine. Okay, what I'll do, people, I'll just go ahead and see. I'm not able to understand. I'm not able to get into the system. It is blocking my request. So what I'll do now is I'll just mention Vagrant. Thank you, but I want this machine to get destroyed. Right? What I will do now is I'll once again launch a new machine with the new configurations. You'll see that now. But I just want to be sure whether the destroy is working. Yeah, Vagrant destroy. Do you want to destroy? Yes, I would like to go ahead and destroy this machine. So it will shut down the machine. But still you will see the Vagrant file will be there. Vagrant file will be there. So what I'll do is I'll just continue. Now I'm going to get started again. Vagrant, could you go ahead and make this machine up once again? So what I'm trying to do, what is that I'm trying to do once again is just getting started with the new changes, whatever the new changes. Because it is not able to reload the changes, I'm just going ahead with the new changes. So now it will get started with the machine, virtual machine. So you can expect now the machine got destroyed. In few minutes from now, you will see another machine coming up. So let me be sure. I gave 51024 024. See that the machine is getting ready finally. Where is the machine? Yeah, here it is. It's asking me to do a login. Where is the log? Yeah, here it is. There is a virtual machine. Here it is. See that new machine is coming up. So now, see, let's clear the screen. Vagrant, thank you so much for provisioning a virtual machine. Can you go ahead and get started by allowing me to do an SSH into this machine? So I'm just I'm getting started with the SSH. Vagrant space SSH. That means I'm trying to log into this machine once again. There you go. So now Linux machine. So I'm inside my Linux machine. So what I'll do now is take a privilege sudo su cd root mode. So if you just go ahead and do a Google search asking web server installation on Ubuntu, I'll tell you the reason what is web server. Web server is a kind of request that will it's a kind of server that will understand your request to process coming on HTTP. So if you go ahead and do web server installation of Ubuntu, you will see plenty of documentation, but I'll go with Ubuntu documentation. So all you need is installing Apache. So Apache is a kind of web server. So just run this command sudo apt-get, hit enter. See that internet is also running on this machine. That means it is able to use network. And what is the next command should I use? apt install Apache 2. After the installation, I need to open up my IP address. So let me just confirm this installation. I think it's done. 100% is done. Apt install Apache 2. Hit enter. It is asking me, do you want to continue? Press capital Y. It will install Ubuntu, that is Apache 2 in your system. What is the purpose of Apache 2? Apache 2 is nothing but your web server that understands your DNS requests. So what you do now, since you have opened, you have to run it in local system. So local host port 1990. This is a port that I've opened. Here it is. Forward the port from Vagrant machine 80. Request will end up at 1990. So local host 1990. There you go. Apache welcoming page. I would like to resolve my own content. So here it also suggests you how to resolve your own content. If you can read this page, it means that Apache HTTP server installed at this site is working properly. To replace the content in this file, if you want to replace the content, navigate to that folder. cd var www html folder. Do an ls. You see there's a file. clear, it will clear your screen. So what I'll do now is I'll create a new file saying that nano hello. Welcome to Vagrant version. Let's change and hit enter. All you need to do is localhost followed by the file that you have created. Hello.html. There you go. Welcome to Vagrant provisioning tool. Now, people, we will be doing same kind of actions, but no more on localhost, on instances that are running with the IP addresses in AWS Cloud. That is what is we will do. So localhost means it's your actual server. That means your system, your laptop, prem servers, on-prem servers. People are not expecting you to work on on-prem servers. People are expecting you to work on cloud servers. So the same set of application deployment, application provisioning, DevOps pipeline deployment, no more on localhost. We will start focusing on cloud and cloud servers. If people have understood the purpose of Vagrant and how Vagrant will work, can I expect one quick confirmation from everyone in the chat? If you are not understood, please do let me know. If you want to understand the IP address of it, so just type in ipconfig. It will give you not ipconfig. It will give you the IP address. The IP address that we have given for this machine was 192.168.33.10. Is it not the IP address that I have given? Okay, now assume that everything, whatever you wanted to do, you have done it. You are going out of the machine, done. Make an exit from the machine. You are away from the virtual machine and back onto your laptop. So your machine is done. So this time, it's time for me to go ahead and destroy the machine. So Vagrant, destroy. Thank you so much. It has been a very great, you Vagrant, you have been a very great help to me by bringing up the machines on my behalf. So it's time for you to go ahead and destroy the machine. Destroy. Enter. Yes, it's done. machine is gone away from the virtual machine, Oracle VirtualBox. Even if you do a resolution for the local host, no more local host. Local host doesn't have anything to resolve because the data itself is deleted. So with that, people, I bring up what exactly Vagrant can do. If you people have understood what exactly Vagrant can do, can I expect a quick confirmation from everyone regarding the usage of Vagrant and what Vagrant can do? So in today's session, we have attempted to understand Vagrant and its benefits of using as it using it as a provisioning management tool. So people, would you be creating Red Hat machines? Can you create a Red Hat machine using Ubuntu? Using Vagrant? I don't want you to work on. I want you to attempt on building Red Hat machine, or you can build a Windows machine, another Windows machine using Vagrant. Can you make an attempt? This is an assignment. Take an assignment. I want you to give me a scripted code for the Vagrant file where I can see hello world. You can display the moment you say localhost. If I just type in localhost after running the machine, you guys can take a screenshot of your assignment. Localhost 8080 also you can run because your default port is 80. So you can run with port 8080. I run 9090, you can run 8080. Make a screenshot, keep your source code ready. Give me a source code, I'll run it, I'll show you I can start a VM in my machine. So that's an assignment for you. People, would you be interested in writing out a Vagrant file on your own to provision a VM? You So what you can do is you can share it to me in the tomorrow session itself. On your go, I'll run that script. If that script gives me a VM, so another lesson for you. That is like you are giving me the script, I'm running the script, and I'm making a machine ready. Please make an attempt. That will be very helpful. That's gonna be very helpful for you. So with this, I bring up the today's topic with regards to the virtualization with Vagrant. So quick summary of what we have learned today. So today's session was all about taking the virtualization to the next level. That is like using the virtual machine in conjunction with the Vagrant. So Vagrant works with the concept of Vagrant file. So you script the idea of virtual machine in the form of a script and hand it over to the Vagrant. Vagrant works in conjunction with the virtual box and then it does provision. People, you don't need virtual box. You can even substitute virtual box with any other hypervisor like Zen. You can replace with Hyper-V. You can replace with someone was asking me, can I replace with VMware? Yes, you can. But VMware, you have to buy licenses for it. Vagrant will work with VMware, but for everything there is a license which costs you something like $79. Right? It will work, but there is a cost. So let me confirm you. So VMware with Vagrant. It does work. VMware integration. You need to buy licenses. So it costs you for Fusion workstation. You need to buy licenses. I'm guessing it is 79. Yeah, $79 per seat. Here, the reason why I have picked up Oracle VirtualBox is because you don't need to buy any licenses with Vagrant for Oracle VirtualBox. But if you use VMware, you have to buy licenses. That is the reason people Oracle VirtualBox is something that I use as an open source. So it's an open source. It does work with Vagrant, and there is no cost for using it. Okay, so that's all, guys. So please give me a quick confirmation so that we can wrap up for the day. Thank you. So that's all, guys. Thank you for the recording as well.